Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Blast off, here we are, another episode of Modernize or Die CFML News Edition, October 29th, 2019, and I've got Brad Woodward here with me today.
How's it going? I've got Gavin picking with me today.
Yep.
Who has who? Do you have me or do I have you? One of us is trapped here in a license plate factory.
Well,
the other one's in charge. We haven't figured it out yet.
Well, I think my machine is the one recording and hosting, so I think that's me. So with the podcast breaks like it did last week, you guys can blame me. So sorry about that. If you guys were watching live last week and sort of disconnect, I don't know what happened. We'll call it an internet blip. I blame AWS and Google because everything else was going wrong that day too. But the full episode is up online, so you guys can watch that or listen to that.
Yeah, we did keep recording even though the live stream cut out, so you can catch the end of what we said in the recording.
Yep. And obviously cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io for the podcast version too. So let's get into the news. So the first thing we got coming up here is Charlie Arehart's actually doing a CFUG, so ColdFusion Usergroup, and he's doing an online version about Fusion Reactor, and he's actually doing it for CFUGSFL, and I'm not sure where that actually is. I should probably check that out.
That's a very long acronym.
Yeah.
South Florida ColdFusion Usergroup is what Juggle tells me.
Oh, cool. Well, there you go. So he's going to be speaking about Fusion Reactor on October 30th, and there's a link to the Facebook event. And the cool thing about it is he's actually giving away some extended free ultimate trials for Fusion Reactor, and they have the discounts for all the ColdFusion products and whatever as well.
The South Florida CFUG has a link to Modernize or Die on their homepage. I like these guys.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. So
they know what's up.
Yep. And then, yes, if you leave a review on g2.com, you'll actually get a free developer license. So pretty cool. If you guys got time to make that recording, said October 30th, we'll have it in the show notes, and Brad might paste it in the YouTube channel as well as we go. But nice that he's out there spreading the word. I know he does a lot of work with Fusion Reactor in his day job, and he likes to help promote them as well. So great product. We love Fusion Reactor. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it or you're not using it now. Cool. And then up next we have the Online ColdFusion Meetup. So last week we actually had Pete Freitag. And so he did his approaches to more secure ColdFusion code. So the link for that will be in the show notes, and that's available on the meetup.com/ColdFusion Meetup. But this week we have a new presenter, and we've had him at Into the Box a couple of times, and he was at CF Summit as well. So Matt Clemente.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's talking about Git/CFML, a guide to writing API wrappers. I see what you did there, Matthew. It's a little meta title. So it looks like it's trying to read the description here. Just covering a lot of the libraries, how to return random cat pictures, I guess is one thing he's covering. So, I mean, that looks like it should be worth it right there.
Yep, exactly. Maybe they'll even upgrade to the dog pictures because that's the new cool thing. Cats are out, dogs are in.
Oh, yeah. CF Camp was all about the dog examples in the sessions, so.
Yeah, but Matt actually gave this at CF Summit, and I believe he gave this one at Into the Box. If not this year, I know he did last year for sure. It's a good session, and if you're looking for writing wrappers to APIs or just using them, because most things, sadly, in ColdFusion there isn't a SDK for it, so we have to drop down to Java or use REST or whatever. So this sort of guide will help you make those wrappers, so we can use them and put them up on ForgeBox and share them. Jordan Clark has a bunch up there. I know Matt Gifford is an API wrapping machine as well, and Matt Clemente joined the group.
So it looks like it's focusing not just on writing APIs, but on wrapping other third-party APIs. So
yep. So if we work together, we can have more ColdFusion APIs available. So
well, yeah, and it's important to publish those because a lot of people interact with a third-party system that has an API, and they'll write some code, but they'll just keep it to themselves to be part of their app. So the next time a ColdFusion developer comes along and they're like, hey, I have to integrate with the same system, there's not anything out on ForgeBox that can drop in and kind of give them a head start. So I really love this kind of concept of build something a little generic and publish it, and then the whole community benefits from it. Don't just keep it a proprietary part of what you're building right then.
Yep, for sure. And that's the thing too. If you do have to build something, look on ForgeBox. There's a lot of great things there. And if there isn't something there, add to the pile, and we can all help each other be more productive, right? That's the end goal, is to do better work, not harder work. But that's available up on the ColdFusion Meetup site, and we have a link. Brad's pasting in the channel there, and they'll be in the show notes as well. He's onto it. So the next on the news item is it's the last chance for you to get a cool Hacktoberfest shirt. This is last year's. Hacktoberfest is almost over. We're down to the last few days in October here. So remember,
we can't see your shirt, Gavin. Stand up. The desk is too high. Comes up to here on you.
But so the cool thing about this is it's just a way that to publicize and really promote open source software. And obviously Ortus does a lot of open source software. ColdBox, CommandBox, everything else Box pretty much is open source, and that's how we try to keep ColdFusion alive and kicking with all these great tools. And so this is a promotion to get everyone using open source and promoting it. So if you haven't looked at Hacktoberfest, you can go to hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com. But all you need is 4 pull requests. They don't even have to be merged. They just have to be not tagged as spam.
Yep, I've got a lot of pull requests this month for CommandBox docs, for CommandBox, for CFconfig, for ColdBox docs. There's from people all over this. So
yep, and
this is your last chance to get those in.
Yep, and if you haven't registered but you've made pull requests already, those still count. So just register, and then your shirt will be on the way. So I already picked out mine. So I chose the unisex one, not the woman's one. So that's I know a big deal too for the female developers we have out there. A lot of times they get the guy shirts at these conferences and they don't fit right. They actually have a female form shirt, so you can get a good fitting shirt. So that's a big plus. So but yep, so hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com, go sign up, and and then tag what you're working on with that as well, and let everybody else know in the CFML community we're doing some open source. Okay, so next on the list we have conferences. So we thought all the conferences were over, but
fooled you.
Yep, fooled me too. So last week we mentioned that we had Into the Box LATAM America coming up, and we have the details now.
Yeah.
So the site is live. If you go to LATAM, which is short for Latin America, .intothebox.org, you can go there, and thanks to Google Translate, you can read it just like I did, because this version is going to be all in Spanish. So the site is in Spanish. Right. The speakers are going to be speaking Spanish, and there's even one speaker there. I'm like, do they even speak Spanish? But apparently they're going to have an interpreter for John Clausen. But it's going to be December 4th down in San Salvador, El Salvador. And as I mentioned, it's a one-day, one-tracks presented in Spanish. And we got a lot of great Ortus speakers there. So Luis Majano, Edgardo Caberas, Jorge Reyes, John Cabezas. Sorry, my pronunciation is terrible. You should know that. John Clausen, Esmeralda Acevedo, Stephanie Mongen, Javier Quintero, Luis Vega. So these are all. Oh, see, even better. So
QBU makes a K sound in Spanish. It's weird.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though, because I mean, a lot of these are familiar faces to Gavin and I from inside of Ortus, but we can't usually get some of our quieter individuals to come out and speak it Into the Box, but we're totally getting them out here for the Latin America Into the Box. So I'm pretty excited. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go down and be a part of it, but I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody in Central America or South America that has developers who want to try to get to this, that would be pretty sweet.
Yep, and like I said, I use Google Translate, so I see that they're talking about Docker. They're using some Vue.js and Quasar, which is my favorite Vue.js framework for doing everything cool there. But a lot of good content. Just working on your teams and more agile software as well. So open source as well. So a lot of different things, but it should be a good thing. And so tickets are available now, but that's December 4th in San Salvador, El Salvador. So latam.intothebox.org. go check it out. And then next, Adobe's has their CF Summit India coming up on December 7th, 2019. So
it's going to be around the same time as our Latin America Into the Box.
Yep, it's a couple days later.
Bengaluru, it looks like.
Yeah, Bengaluru, India. And so it looks like they're going to have a bigger contingency of all the ColdFusion developer engineers there. Obviously, they're based in India. That's where their main office is. Luis got to visit their office when he was there for his training in Bangalore.
Lucky.
But yeah, so they've got I think it's 1 day, and the best thing about it is it's free. It's complimentary. So if you're in the area, definitely check it out. All the Adobe people will be there. A lot of great content, and customer success stories and everything. So definitely a big plus. I think it'd be a good one to go to. So if you can, try to check that out. And then next, sorry.
I'm trying to figure out the difference between Bangalore and Bengaluru. I don't know anything about where the cities are in India. I thought the Adobe offices were in Bangalore.
I think they are. But...
Oh, I see. According to Wikipedia here, Bangalore was originally known as Bengaluru and then became Bengaluru, following the British renamed it as Bangalore. I see. I learned some pretty cool history about India when I was at the CF Summit chatting with the CF team.
Cool. Yeah, what I know is from my days playing cricket with a lot of expatriates from India down in LA and San Francisco here. Big cricket supporters. Okay, so if you're not in India, but you're in USA, later in May 2020, we've got our next version of Into the Box, the English version, hosted in Houston, Texas. So just like the state, everything's big. We got 2 tracks of great information, great content. We got workshops as well. It's going to be held at the Hyatt Place in the Woodlands. So it's just outside of Houston there, and it's really beautiful. It's a good place to go visit, and we got a lot of great stuff. The call for speakers will be announced soon. We're always looking for new speakers, so check it out. Check out what we had last year. Check out some of the topics, and if you got some ideas for new content, let us know, and we're willing to sort of coach and guide you too. So if you submit something interesting and you need some help, we can help polish it up. And this ColdFusion Online Meetup is a great place to present if you want to, get some practice, or if you have a local user group or something. That's a good way to do that too. Yeah, that will definitely help your confidence. And, and don't worry, even the speakers who, spoke all the time, they still get nervous. I seem to speak at a fair number of conferences these days, and I still get a little nervous getting up there, and I speak a little faster than I should. I need to when I have 150 slides in my PowerPoint, but that's another point. But early bird tickets will be available later in the year. But yeah, so book those dates, May 6th to the 8th. You want to make sure you have, the full 3 days, because those workshops are great as well. So we'll have 1 day workshops beforehand. But yeah, it's always a good time. A lot of great content. And if CF Summit's a little too entry level for you, we definitely try and push it with some more advanced topics here, a little more interesting things. So 2 days, we've got about 30 different sessions. So lots of great content to pick from.
And you don't need to use Google Translate to read the site, even though there's not a lot of content on it yet right now.
Yep. And that's another thing too. We'll have all of that available soon on there, but brain freeze.
Yeah, basically we just have the dates up right now, but we'll be updating that pretty soon as we start getting sessions put together.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, sorry, lost my train of thought. It was you don't have to use ColdFusion to get a lot out of Into the Box. A lot of people have written their recaps from this year, like Matt Clemente and Nolan Turk and whatever, and they were surprised how much great content was there that wasn't box specific. They might be using more box products now than they were when they first came, but you don't have to use ColdFusion. If you're presenting, you don't have to present on ColdFusion. As long as it's CFML related and useful to developers in the CFML world, then we'll look at that. We do sessions on JavaScript frameworks and everything too. So, anyway, I know that a lot of people say, I don't do box products, but it's still get some value there. A lot of great content.
Yeah, make sure you spread the word on that. It is a generic ColdFusion conference that just happens to feature box stuff, but definitely isn't limited to it.
Yep. Cool.
Well, that's the conferences. I think we need to figure out what country Into the Box is going to go into next, because CF Summit already has India, and they've got 2 different versions in the US. We should hold like a raffle for what country thinks Into the Box should come there as well.
Yep, I know.
I'm gonna give Luis an aneurysm thinking like, oh geez, what other country? We don't have the bandwidth to do this in every country that exists. That'd be awesome though.
Yeah, we talked about doing something like a CF Summit. Not CF Summit, but like a CF Camp, like a pre-conference. So that's how Into the Box started. It was before CF Objective in the old days. Mm-hmm. So we could always do a European style and throw some more stuff together, because we can't take over CF Camp with all of our sessions. So, so let's get into the
blogs, tweets, and videos. Gavin, what do we got?
Yep. Well, Gray Desmond has a blog post on the coldfusion.adobe.com blog. It's his ColdFusion Summit 2019 recap, the Vegas edition. He did already release write-ups on all the specialization programs. So he wrote 2 or 3 on that, and he has links to them in this one. But basically, he said he's a little late getting his thoughts together, but he wanted to give it a recap there. Better late than never. And so that gives his overview. So if you guys haven't been to the conference, don't take our word for it that it's great just because we speak there and sponsor and everything. Check out that write-up, and it has a lot of good information in there linked out to about the specialist program too. So pretty cool. So the next one up, we have Fusion Reactor. So
yeah, it looks to be a blog titled "Configuring and Disabling Log Tracking in Fusion Reactors." So this is a post that kind of walks you through some configuration stuff that sort of adjusts how the logging works inside your application. Talks about the kind of logs that are captured, and even how they capture different logs from Java frameworks and CF log statements.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know it logged that much. So you've got lots of options there. So configure it to meet your requirements. So.
Yeah. So basically, if you're using like the CF log tag, either Lucy or ColdFusion logs, or even if you're dialing in libraries that use like the Apache Commons logging or Log4j, Fusion Reactor can basically kind of log in, latch onto that and grab those logs inside of its own little logging system, so you can kind of view a consolidated list of all your logs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Interesting. I wonder if that combines multiple servers when you're doing Docker, because I know that the Fusion Reactor Cloud kind of brings a lot of the applications together. I wonder if it combines logs from multiple sources. That'd be interesting.
I don't know. I doubt it sends them to cloud, but that would be a good question. I actually think I see a typo in here. Under adding system properties, they have false misspelled.
Whoops.
Stand by while I harass the Fusion Reactor team. And to be clear, when I say the Fusion Reactor team, I really mean Mikey Fluid. I got to meet him at CF Camp in Germany, which is super cool. He's the guy that handles most of the support for the Fusion Reactor stuff. And I bug him on a regular basis. In fact, I was talking with him this morning. I sent over an enhancement request to the Fusion Reactor guys, and I was like, hey, is there a way you could log errors that happen inside ColdBox applications so it actually shows the request is erroring, because ColdBox, traps the error and displays the pretty page, but I'd still like to be able to, see from my Fusion Reactor dashboard what the error was. And they've actually implemented that for me. So I really love that they add features and they fix stuff all the time for us. So I was super excited to be able to meet their support guy, Mikey at CF Camp. So when I say harass the Fusion Reactor team, what I really mean is harass Mikey.
Yeah.
He knows how it all works. He's great.
Cool. Okay, while you're doing that, then I'm going to talk about Matt Clemente. He had a tweet basically saying he's really excited to be speaking at the next online meetup about CFML API wrappers. So he said if you missed the session at CF Summit, you can see it here. And don't worry, if you don't watch it live, it'll be recorded. So he's excited about speaking. Obviously, we gave you all the details before. But yeah, good to have new speakers out there. So speaking of
harassing done.
So speaking about our normal harassers, Matt Gifford basically posted a little bit about his lessons learned from his first live coding stream. So
yeah, I saw him tweet about that the other day. I was like, that's a brave guy to just code live and let people watch. Michael Bourne's done it a few times too, which is kind of cool.
I know, like, dang it, I guess we have to jump on that bandwagon too. But his tweet read, "Things I learned from my first live coding stream. 1, it's hard to talk about what you're coding and why you're coding it as you're coding it. And 2, it's a new experience to fill up dead air with chatter as you do. It's a lot of fun." So
all I could think of was people that like live Twitch streamed them playing Minecraft or Roblox for like 2 hours at a time. The problem is usually when I'm coding, if I'm working in something like CommandBox, half the time what's in my head is like, you stupid idiot, that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, and it'll be pretty funny to talk out loud while you're coding. I might have to try it. But so we have a link there in the show notes to the actual tweet, his Twitter account, and then the Twitch account as well. And if you
I'll throw have a Twitch account up there in case anyone wants to watch his future streams.
And then he blogged about his video stream too. So on Friday, 25th of October in 2019, he broadcast his first video stream. Basically, his plan is just have some fun with it, cover presentations, code refactoring, tips and tricks, tutorials on frameworks, etc. And so on that blog post, he has a link to the YouTube channel, the Twitch. So if you just would rather watch on YouTube, he uses some software that streams to multiple locations, so you could check that out. But
it's pretty cool. I was just thinking the other day, do you remember when webcams kind of first came out, Gavin? And it became like a cool thing that people would they would have like a website and they would have like a live picture from their webcam that would update like every hour or something. Do you remember that?
I still do that for some companies like golf courses
right,
or whatever.
Yeah. You have like a live thing. Well, it's just funny because like that was pretty crazy back in the day, and now we can just like live stream anything we do whenever we want.
And more than when we want to. I remember I got one of those Samsung TVs that would just spy on me. Like everyone complains about their phones and everything else too, but Samsung TVs actually recorded, sent the audio streams away.
All right. This is funny. Inley, which I assume is Sam Knowlton, just sent a comment in the chat, but it got blocked by the spam filter because it used the phrase "stupid idiot." I had to manually approve it. Watch your language.
Too funny. So
anyway, moving on.
It looks like Fusion Reactor is a big thing today. There's a CFL Live also released a podcast. Episode 91 had Vue.js, Fusion Reactor, and Therapy with Ray Camden. So that was an interesting one, an interesting mix because talks about Angular versus Vue.js and obviously Fusion Reactor, and then Therapy too. So as a software developer, you got to look after yourself. We all know that, So interesting episode with Ray. He used to do a lot more ColdFusion stuff. Now he's doing more JavaScript stuff, but it's still good to see him active and busy in the community. So Michaela interviewed him there. So you can get that on teartech.com, and that's episode 91.
Some heavy content, but looks pretty good.
Yep. And then
episode 91. What episode are we at, Gavin?
We're at 25.
We're going to have to start doing like 2 of these a week to catch up.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But no, 25 episodes is a big deal on the podcast board because I think like 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 7. So
episode 7. That's not that many. You think people would stick through it longer, but
yeah. So that's about what they get to. So we're already in like the top 10% of all podcasts ever. It's pretty cool.
We made it past 7 episodes. Yay.
Yep.
All right, the next tweet is mine, it looks like.
Yep.
I ran across a little bug in Lucy yesterday or whenever it was, which works okay in Adobe ColdFusion, but I noticed that when you did a union as a query of query, it didn't distinct the results. And that's the way that SQL servers work, or MySQL, whatever, databases. Is when you union 2 selects together, it automatically takes out any duplicates unless you say union all. This is kind of how unions work. But anyway, in Lucy's server, I noticed this because I was working on the file globbing library that's inside of CommandBox, and I enhanced it so instead of having just one globbing pattern, you can have multiple, and it kind of loops over them, and it gets a query object out of CF directory, and I just kind of combine them together. And I was thinking, oh, well, perfect, I can union these, and it'll also dedupe it at the same time. And I was like, oh, nope. I guess it doesn't. So I threw in a Lucy ticket for that, marked it as a compatibility since it technically works in Adobe. So
Interesting though too, because I know either last week, the week before, we were talking about how the query of queries is not a good thing, and the ColdFusion is not a query engine, etc. And Michael Bourne had told us that they actually inside Lucy they'll load them into like a in-memory database like H2 or something in memory, and then do the query based off of that. So I don't know how much of that is accurate, but if that's the case, I wonder if the underlying engine doesn't do unions right.
I don't think it happens all the time. I'd have to try to review it. Misha had talked to me about that once. And I believe that it only loaded it into like an H2 database if the queries were big enough, it crossed some threshold or took a certain amount of time, then it would default to that behavior. I think if you just have a small query in memory, it might not actually use that. But that's actually a good question because it might be a different behavior.
Yeah.
See, I don't completely subscribe to the whole queries is horrible and you should never use it, which is just a few people out there that are pretty big on that. I think it can be horrible, but I think it can also be really great. And you kind of have to judge your use cases. You know, I mean, if I had like a million records that I wanted to play with, it'd probably not be, you know, the most performance to do it in a query. But if I'm just dealing with, you know, less than 1,000 records, maybe a few hundred, and I just want to merge them together and do some operations on them, I think queries is freaking fabulous for that. But I don't know. I think you always have to be careful with these always never statements where you're like, it's always great, it's never great. But anyway, I was thinking about that. Eric Peterson was throwing shade to me on Twitter for using queries, and I was laughing to myself thinking about it. But,
yeah, I know it's pretty polar, some of the opinions, but
yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, it is good and bad. I think you have to judge it, see how it behaves.
For sure. Cool. And then we have a tweet from one of our previous Ortus trainings.
Felipe Sambor.
Yep, and he's been to several of our trainings now, actually.
I was there for the first training he was at in Vegas, I believe.
2017, I believe, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So he did the ColdBox boot camp, and then I know that he's been in a couple of my workshops as well. We did a Content Box one and everything as well. So he's done a lot of trainings with us. He's a great guy, and basically his tweet was about a new product they just released. So it reads, "Just release Samovar, a multilingual foundation app written in Lucy 5.2.9, ColdBox 5.5, and Bootstrap 4. 2 years of very hard work after my first encounter with ColdBox in Vegas at CF Summit 2017. No looking back, the smartest move ever to the Lucy and ColdBox world." So
that's pretty cool.
Yep, I know Lucy tweeted back to him, saying thanks for the plug, and obviously, Philippe's a good guy. He's been in the last couple of Into the Boxes too, so hopefully we'll see him again in May and we can talk more about it. Maybe we should get a customer testimonial.
Where does he?
He lives in Singapore.
Like Singapore?
Yeah.
I think he's from like Spain or something. He lives in Singapore. So that was a big travel for him coming out to Into the Box in Houston. But that's super exciting though to see him, because I mean, like I said, I was there in that very first training when he was learning ColdBox for the first time, and it's so cool to see him releasing, apps out there built on top of the stuff and enjoying it. So
and so maybe we can get him as a customer testimonial Into the Box, because I mean it sounds like a good story to tell and share.
Bring your camera to Houston, Gavin.
Oh, I always got it with me.
I mean, that's a joke. You usually bring like 17 cameras Into the Box. Gavin brings a suitcase just full of cameras and audio equipment every year. So
cables
bringing your camera is like insulting. Are you kidding me? Bring my camera.
Yep. So
also, we have a blog post from Matt Gifford talking about Lucy 5 _ internal request method, which is actually something that I've used myself, and it's really cool. It's one of those undocumented methods inside of Lucy. So you won't find it. Yeah, you won't find it in like CF docs unless somebody's added it there. It's one of those things that could kind of technically change at any time. It's not technically supported. But it's a really cool function, because what it does is it simulates an HTTP request, but it doesn't actually make an HTTP request. It just spins up a thread, and it will execute a page as though it were like a brand new page request. Application.cfc, everything fires, and you get back a CFHTTP type response out of it. And it's really cool. The testing suite inside of Lucy uses it all over the place. And it's great for throwing together some like quick and dirty integration testing on a legacy site that's not using ColdBox or anything that kind of natively supports integration testing, because you can simulate HTTP requests to the homepage and say what HTML came back, but it performs way faster. So So anyway, yeah, he has a whole blog post talking about that and kind of how he uses it, and it's pretty cool. And there's he even shows a clever way to get kind of the documentation of all the parameters by calling some underlying methods in Lucy that'll get back all of the arguments and their descriptions, which is cool too.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, you did some legacy tests with that for a client we're working on, and I'm like, oh, now I got to rewrite all my stuff. Because yeah, at Vegas, I talked to people about how to, basically write integration tests and using Hyper instead of CFHTTP. But I mean, obviously, if you're using Lucy, internal request is even better. It speeds up your tests a lot. So very cool. Yep. And then looks like Paul Hastic was looking for VS Code extensions. So it all started with John Barrett, saying he couldn't get CF Builder to download from Adobe. So he's asking, what is everybody using? So everyone started talking about VS Code and everything. And then, I guess he found you posted a link of VS Code extensions and how to use VS Code with CommandBox on the docs.
The best way to get suggestions for a new IDE is to complain about ColdFusion Builder on Twitter. Just try it. Be like, I ran into a ColdFusion Builder, bug. And then within like half an hour, you'll have like 15 people that reply. They're like, use this, use this, use this.
Yep. And the funniest thing is, after you sent that page with a few extensions, I'm like, there's a podcast that happens every week where we talk about a new VS Code extension. And he's like, is this a subtle hint that I should subscribe? We're like,
if only there was some place that would give you a weekly feed of VS Code extensions. Exactly.
So he subscribed. I got proof. He sent me a screenshot that he subscribed to the podcast. So
Photoshop.
Yeah, probably. But Paul, good to have you listening. If you're listening,
yeah, if you're really there, Paul, comment in the chat.
Maybe I'll listen on his podcast viewer, not on the live video stream.
True. Yeah, a lot of people watched afterwards.
Yeah. And then Charlie Arehart also had a blog post on coldfusion.adobe.com. He talked about how ColdFusion now supports Java 12, which is already end of life. So should we use it? Should we use Java 13, Java 11? This whole which version of Java should we use is kind of weird. But the short of it is, even though Adobe just added support for Java 12 to 2018 and 2016, he proposes you should not use that, but instead use the latest version of Java 11. And in his blog post, he says, we'll tell you why. So if you go to coldfusion.adobe.com, you can see that there, and we have it in the show notes as well. But the article is right there on coldfusion.adobe.com. So thanks again, Charlie, for all the work you do sharing this. Also, James Moberg, who does quite a lot of work on Twitter, he actually does some pretty interesting things. He shares a lot of interesting little tidbits he's working on. But he was using the grep CFC that Matt Gifford wrote last week. So we talked about that last week, and he said thanks. He just used it to validate a UUID token download with a third-party CSV file. So it made it a whole lot easier than passing and looping over the data using find no case and stuff like that. So Matt was pretty happy that someone's already using it, and he's already got ideas for version 2. So he'll add line numbers and all sorts of stuff in there. So see, ForgeBox is great. Throw something up there and people can start using it. Well, I don't even know if he has it on ForgeBox yet, to be honest, but it could be. So yeah. So it's Halloween week. So we can't do a Halloween episode of CFML News without Pete Freitag scaring us.
Spooky.
So, yeah, I guess Pete was talking about timing attacks and timing allow origin header. So, I've actually never looked too much into these timing attacks, but he says he always thought they're pretty interesting for vulnerabilities. And so this sort of blog post goes through, what they are and how to understand, basically how to use the timing allow origin response header. Because I guess there's a whole bunch of headers out there that are for security. The browsers, uphold them, and some of them are annoying. But most things that stop security also stops developers. But you got to learn how to use them properly. So this one here talks about timing attacks and shows you how you can work with the timing allow origin header to stop that vulnerability.
Thanks, Pete, for watching that for us. There's the link to his article on it.
Cool. So next we have just a really short blog post from Akito. I have never actually heard that name. Do you know who they are?
That's the company that Gunnar's from, right?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that's Gunner's company in Frankfurt.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I guess they had something where Apache and Tomcat wasn't recognizing the SSL correctly, so they're basically just a short, like I said, a short little blog post about how to pass CGI SSL statuses from Apache to Tomcat. And I guess it had issues when they're using this ColdBox app, and they had event.build link, and that helps you build the link correctly with SSL and everything enabled. Yeah. But I guess there was one line they had to add to make sure that it actually passed that information to Tomcat, so there was no issues in that process.
Yeah, that's Gunnar. On their cool. About page, this is in Frankfurt. Managing Director, Gunnar Lieb.
Cool. Yep.
Just saw him in Germany a couple weeks ago, or last week, whenever the heck that was.
Cool. Well, speaking of Germany and CF Camp, Nolan Turk released his CF Camp recap. So he said after 22 hours of overall travel and a 14-hour nap, he's home and right side up after that. But
yeah, he was actually on the same flight as my family from Munich to Houston. I mean, that's where we split ways. We went up to Kansas City, and he had to continue on to Sacramento.
Cool. And he was saying it's 10th anniversary, and the conference continues to grow, and this is the largest attendance ever.
Yep.
So keeps growing. And so 10 years of CF Camp, and next year is 25 years of Adobe ColdFusion. So hopefully they'll do something cool, make an extra big party.
Yeah, I heard Adobe was even interested in trying to do some cool stuff next year at CF Camp, being the 25th anniversary of ColdFusion. So I'm definitely looking forward to next year.
Cool. Well, before we go to the next tweet, John Farrar just asked, he said, "We are no longer using Tomcat and CommandBox servers, are we?"
And I just replied, that is correct. It's Undertow, which is JBoss.
Cool.
Yep. So if you use CommandBox, there's no Tomcat in play. We use a different servlet container.
Very cool. So we had a tweet from Matt Gifford, first-time listener. So after all these weeks of talking about Matt Gifford, he doesn't even listen to the dang show.
So now we have to watch what he say, because apparently he's going to actually be listening to us. So
yeah, so he was ashamed to say that this was his first time listening last week, and so now he subscribed and #LoveMeOrtusChat. So
also, Matt, if you're out there, your grep CFC is not in fact on ForgeBox. It's only on GitHub. So come on, snap to it, buddy. Get that stuff on ForgeBox.
You know what? That could be your next live stream. How to take a simple CFC function and turn it into a module on ForgeBox.
It's just, even if it's not a module, even if it's just a package, init, publish, boom. What more do you need? We've given you all the tools.
Yeah. So he said he was going to go back and listen to all the episodes. So I think he's only doing that so he can get those 25 episodes worth of VS Code extensions. But that's a good reason to go listen to the backlog if I ever heard one.
Yeah.
So, yep. And so there was a blog in question on the coldfusion.adobe.com site. So if you ask a question on the forum there, it actually posts as well. It looks like a blog post, but he was saying after upgrading to update 5 on 2018, pages randomly won't load. So if you guys have upgraded to the update 5 and have this issue, there's several suggestions in the comments about how to fix it. But basically, it's to do with the WS config and trying to get it all hooked up again. So it looks like they're running IIS and 10, etc. So Charlie chimed in and a couple other people did. So if you go to coldfusion.adobe.com, the blog post is there, and you can find out more. So if you're having the same problem,
yeah, the latest updater was one of the first ones to require the web server connectors to be rebuilt in a while. Because there was a graph on one of the Adobe pages that had each updater and does the web server connector need to be rebuilt. We ran into someone in Las Vegas who came by the booth, and they were trying to get rewrites to work, and they just installed the latest Adobe hotfix. And of course, I say hotfix, the updater. And of course, they were getting these really weird, 404s or empty pages. I mean, the way it manifests itself is always really freaky, and you're like, what's going on? And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, you installed an updater. Have you, reinstalled the web server connectors? And then of course it magically starts working. So that'll bite you all the time.
Yep. So there's good suggestions there. So if you're facing the same problem, that's a good way to go. Go check that one out there. And for those of you who didn't notice, I actually started posting the the podcast release up there on the coldfusion.adobe.com site because it's the portal. So I thought we'd get a few more people finding us. So posted it out there. Yep. So now we're on to some CFML jobs. And I only saw one this week. There's probably more on www.getcfmljobs.com. But there is a ColdFusion developer position in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. So they're looking for a,
Melbourne.
Yep, Melbourne. I think I'm saying it funny. I've been here too long.
I don't know. How do you say it?
I don't know. Melbourne?
I just say it Melbourne.
Well, it's Melbourne.
Really?
I pronounce it with like an IN sound, not a born. But
born.
Yeah,
that's the American way to say it right there.
Exactly. I've been here too long. But yeah, so they're looking for a full-time developer to join their team. It's in Melbourne, and it's they want a developer who's ready to move up to the next level in a eagerly growing business. So
the Melbourne identity.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. So, we've been at this for 50 minutes or so.
Actually, we haven't because you had technical difficulties before.
That's right. We started late, didn't we?
Yep. So, but the ForgeBox module of the week this week is actually going to be the CommandBox-FusionReactor plugin,
which you can read all about on Fusion Reactor's knowledge base. I'll tell you how to uninstall it.
So, but they also talked about how to install it, and they said it's easy and you can do a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, obviously,
it's the easiest way to use Fusion Reactor in the world. I always harass them about that. I'm like, hey, my way is easier than your way.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. So you can enable Fusion Reactor, and every time you start a server, it'll be running. So if you got a developer license, you can register your license there, and then every time you start up a server, it's good and ready to go. Automatically. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just interrupted you. I was going to say, if you want to play with Fusion Reactor and you don't have a license for your local development environment, you can get one that's like $199, and it basically has the ultimate features. And I use Fusion Reactor for my local development probably more than I use it on production. And I do use it a lot in production, but I mean, it's like a tool I use all the time. I didn't even use like the built-in ColdFusion debugging template and get all the database queries that ran and pretty much everything I need out of Fusion Reactor. But if you're on CommandBox, you're just like 2 seconds away from using it. You just install the module, type FR register, paste in your license key, and then you're done. Every server you start just magically has Fusion Reactor enabled. So
yep,
we've tried to make that as painless. And you get the latest Fusion Reactor releases automatically. So they push a release. The next day you come in and start your server. Boom, you're on that release. Pretty painless.
Yeah, I mean, I remember doing it the old school way, and it was not fun. So this is much easier. And then they've got free trials too. So if you want to try it out, check it out. And also, like I said, Charlie's doing that presentation on October 30th for the CFUG in South Florida. So if you sign up for that, they said they're basically, if you go there and then do a review of the software, you get a free developer license. So I'm not sure if that's good for a year or not. As John said in the chat, the developer license is $199 for a year. But I believe if you buy like one for production, do you get developer licenses too, or is this
no? It doesn't work like that.
Okay, wrong thing.
Yeah, because Adobe ColdFusion, right? You buy a production license and you can use it on like staging servers. But Fusion Reactor is not like that. You actually have to buy it for development. But if it's just a developer machine that never sees any kind of production or testing traffic, then you can do the cheaper license. If you have questions about getting a free license by putting in a review, because I don't know exactly, I know they've done that for some of the conferences. I'm not sure who all it extends to. Just email David Tattersall. He's the CEO at Fusion Reactor, and ask him about that, and he can let you know what you can do as far as leaving a review. But they want reviews from people who've actually used the product. So yeah, he can definitely answer questions on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great product. And like I say, if you haven't used it before, check out Charlie's presentation. There's always a lot of cool stuff there. So Brad's pasting the link in there for you to information about the Ortus books. And then obviously that's on ForgeBox.io, so you can get that. And then
VS Code?
Hints, tips, and tricks of the week. So this one's just an interesting little one, because not everything has to be a huge extension. So this one is called Change Case. So this is built on the Node Change Case option. So it's a little wrapper for that, but it allows you to quickly change the case of a current selection or a word. So it can change the camel case or constant case or snake case, and I actually listed them all out here. So we've got this camel case, constant case, dot kebab, lower first, no, param, Pascal, path, sentence, snake, swap,
Jeez, I
title,
didn't know there
upper,
were
and
that
upper
many kinds of
first.
cases.
I think half of them are probably the same, but
That's pretty
in the
cool.
show notes I put them all in there. So
I used to use that quite a bit in ColdFusion Builder, where I'd highlight a selection and you could right click and there was just convert to uppercase and lowercase, which is really pretty simplistic. But this is pretty powerful. I'm curious if you can assign shortcut keys to it. I assume you probably can.
Yeah, you can. It's pretty cool. And the cool thing is too, it actually works for the multiple cursor too. So if you do that,
nice.
And if you do it for just one word, it'll actually give you a preview of all the different types. So if you have like foobar selected and you pull up the command, it'll give you all the options below it with a preview right next to it, which is pretty neat.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm like watching the little animated GIF right now on their website.
Yep.
It's like mesmerizing.
Yeah. The
so, every time I see an animated GIF, I always think of Ray Camden's post where he's like, animated GIFs are not documentation.
No,
Do
but
not make your docs just an animated GIF. And it's not the only thing they have, but I always laugh to myself when I see a GIF now.
Yep, for sure. Cool. And then John Farrar just said, here's one for next week. So I guess he's going to give us another one here.
Whoa. Bonus content.
Yep. So I guess he's looking for a new senior div in Chicago, Illinois. So
Chicago?
Yep. So yeah, John, give us some information and we'll definitely publicize it for you there. And if anybody else knows of any jobs around or any hints, tips, tricks for VS Code or ForgeBox modules or whatever, we're definitely open to more information. We're trying to give the best news out there that we can, but if you guys got something new, please share. So you can reach Brad on Twitter, myself on Twitter, or we're around. We're on CFML Slack, Box Team Slack, every Slack. But so thanks for that. Okay, so next, Patreon supporters. Can't finish the podcast without thanking the supporters, because you guys make our open source survive. So we want to thank everybody here. You guys are supporting CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContiBox, TestBox, all the other boxes, and this podcast is including that pile as well. We really appreciate your help. And we thank all of you. And then if you guys are looking to try and help out as well, I think we've got little packages starting from just $10 a month. And then we have a $50, $100, et cetera, packages. And
$1 million sponsorship.
But if you want to give us $1 million,
we'll personally drive to your house and wash your car.
Yeah, if it's in the States, it might get a little wet driving across somewhere else.
Offer only valid to the continental United States.
Yep. But so thank you, Andrew Davis, Brian White, Calvin Stetton, Dali, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Dadia Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, John Farrar, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamory, Laxma Tirahadi, Matthew Clemente, he sounds familiar, presenting at CF Online this week, Richard Herbert, Samuel Knowlton, Scott Steinbeck, VJ, and Yogesh Mathur. So, again, thank you, all of you. Sorry for the mispronunciations. I know I murdered a couple of them probably, but...
One of the many services we offer here, mispronouncing your name.
Yeah, so... But so again, a lot of good news this week. Some conferences coming up, a couple of good presentations. So a lot of good blog content too. So thanks everybody for keep pushing ColdFusion stuff. And we'll see you all next week.
Keep being awesome.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.